All right, let's talk money, folks. Or more specifically, the lack of it for some and the obscene abundance of it for others. It's a tale as old as time. The haves and the have-nots. The question is this gigantic wealth gap just a natural order of things like gravity or bad reality TV? Or have we humans cooked up this unequal stew ourselves? Some folks, let's call them the It's Just Natural camp, argue that inequality is baked into our DNA. They say just like some folks are naturally taller or better at karaoke, some are just wired for wealth. They point to the animal kingdom, where the alpha lion hogs the resources. It's a jungle out there, they say, and only the strong survive, financially speaking. But hold on a minute. Saying that humans are just hardwired for inequality is a bit like saying we're hardwired to only eat beige food. Sure, we exist on a diet of plain chicken and mashed potatoes, but why would we want to? It ignores the fact that humans are complex, capable of empathy, and, dare I say it, fairness. The truth is, the gap between the super rich and everyone else is more like a gaping chasm. And it's getting wider, and frankly, it's a bit rich, pun intended, to say it's all just natural selection when we see billionaires rocketing themselves into space while others struggle to put food on the table. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into this chasm, examine the arguments from both sides, and see if this whole wealth gap thing is just the circle of life or a human-made disaster. Let's start with the It's Just Natural camp, shall we? They've got their arguments. And like a well-worn trust fund, they've been around for ages. Their argument boils down to this. Inequality is a feature, not a bug. It's the engine that drives innovation and progress. Think about it, they say. If everyone's equally comfortable, where's the motivation to strive for more? The desire to be richer, more successful, to have the shiniest yacht is what pushes humanity forward. It's the fuel for invention, the spark of creativity. Without it, we'd all still be huddled in caves, drawing on the walls with charcoal. And you know what? They've got a point. Take away the profit motive and some businesses might just pack up shop. Some argue that a bit of competition, even if it's brutally unfair at times, keeps everyone on their toes. They also love to trot out examples of self-made billionaires, the ones who started from nothing and built empires. These are the Horatio Alger stories of our time, the ultimate proof that anyone with enough grit and determination and maybe a few tax loopholes can strike it rich. Let's explore the role of government policies in shaping the wealth gap. Governments have the power to implement policies that can either reduce or exacerbate inequality. For instance, progressive taxation, social welfare programs, and public education can help level the playing field. On the other hand, tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation, and austerity measures can widen the gap. Take, for example, the Nordic countries. They are often hailed for their robust welfare states and progressive tax systems. These policies have resulted in relatively low levels of income inequality, high standards of living, and strong social cohesion. Public education and universal healthcare ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, has access to essential services. Contrast this with the United States, where tax cuts for the rich and deregulation have often been the order of the day. While these policies are touted as ways to stimulate economic growth, they have frequently led to a widening wealth gap. The top 1% holds more wealth than the entire bottom 90%, and the social safety nets are comparatively weaker. Then there's the case of austerity measures in countries like Greece and Spain. In the wake of financial crises, these nations implemented severe budget cuts, reducing public spending on healthcare, education, and social services. The result? Increased poverty rates and a more pronounced wealth gap. So, while the It's Just Natural argument might have its merits, it's clear that government policies play a crucial role in either mitigating or magnifying income inequality. The choices made by those in power can have profound impacts on the distribution of wealth and opportunities within a society. As we delve deeper into these case studies, it becomes evident that the wealth gap is not just a product of individual effort or natural talent. It's also a reflection of the policy decisions that shape our economic landscape. Now let's take a look at the role of technology in the wealth gap. Technological advancements have created new opportunities for wealth creation, but they've also led to job displacement and increased income inequality. Automation, artificial intelligence, and the gig economy have transformed the labor market, often benefiting those with the skills to thrive in the new economy while leaving others behind. Consider the rise of automation. While machines and algorithms have made production more efficient, they've also rendered many jobs obsolete. Factory workers, cashiers, and even some professionals have found their roles replaced by automated systems. This shift has disproportionately affected low and middle-income workers who may not have the resources to retrain for new types of employment. Artificial intelligence has further widened the gap. High-paying tech jobs are booming, but they require specialized skills that aren't easily accessible to everyone. This creates a digital divide where those with technical expertise can command lucrative salaries while others struggle to find stable employment. The gig economy, facilitated by technology, offers flexibility but often lacks the benefits and security of traditional employment. Gig workers might find themselves juggling multiple jobs without health insurance, retirement plans, or even a guaranteed income. This precarious form of employment contributes to economic instability for many. So, what can be done to ensure that technology benefits everyone, not just a select few? One potential solution is investing in education and training programs that equip workers with the skills needed for the jobs of the future. Governments and private sectors can collaborate to create pathways for continuous learning and skill development. Another approach is to strengthen social safety nets. As technology reshapes the labor market, robust welfare programs can provide a buffer for those affected by job displacement. Universal basic income, for instance, is a concept gaining traction as a way to ensure a minimum standard of living for all, regardless of employment status. Lastly, policies that promote fair wages and workers' rights in the gig economy can help mitigate some of the negative impacts of this new labor model. By ensuring that gig workers have access to benefits and protections, we can create a more equitable landscape. As we navigate this technological revolution, it's crucial to remember that the choices we make today will shape the future of work and income distribution. By proactively addressing these challenges, we can work towards a more inclusive and equitable society where technology serves as a tool for collective progress rather than a driver of division. Finally, let's discuss the role of education in addressing the wealth gap. Education is often touted as the great equalizer, but access to quality education is not evenly distributed. Wealthier families can afford private schools, tutoring, and extracurricular activities that give their children a leg up. Meanwhile, underfunded public schools in low-income areas struggle to provide basic resources. The disparity begins at an early age. Children from affluent families have access to preschool programs that foster cognitive and social development, setting a strong foundation for future learning. In contrast, children from less privileged backgrounds may start their educational journey already at a disadvantage. As students progress through the educational system, the gap often widens. Wealthier students benefit from smaller class sizes, experienced teachers, and state-of-the-art facilities. They have access to advanced placement courses and extracurricular activities that enrich their learning experience and bolster university applications. On the other hand, students in under-resourced schools may face overcrowded classrooms, outdated materials, and limited extracurricular opportunities. The impact of this educational divide is far-reaching. Higher levels of education are correlated with better job prospects and higher incomes. Thus, those who can afford a superior education often continue to accumulate wealth, while others struggle to break the cycle of poverty. Improving access to quality education can help bridge this gap. Investing in public schools, particularly in low-income areas, can provide all students with the resources they need to succeed. This includes modernizing facilities, reducing class sizes, and ensuring that teachers are well-trained and fairly compensated. Furthermore, making higher education more accessible and affordable is crucial. Scholarships, grants, and low-interest loans can help students from low-income families pursue university degrees and vocational training, opening doors to better employment opportunities. Creating a more equitable educational landscape requires a collective effort from governments, communities, and the private sector. By ensuring that every child has access to quality education, we can work towards a society where opportunities are based on potential, not privilege. In the end, education has the power to transform lives and uplift entire communities. By addressing the educational divide, we can take a significant step towards closing the wealth gap and fostering a more just and inclusive world. Here's the thing about the natural argument, though. It often conveniently forgets that human history is also a history of massive systemic inequality. We're not talking about your neighbor having a slightly nicer car. We're talking empires built on the backs of slaves, feudal systems where lords feasted while peasants starved, and colonial powers that plundered entire continents. This wasn't just about individual talent or hard work. This was about power structures designed to funnel wealth to the top, often using violence, coercion, and good old-fashioned discrimination. Think about it. For centuries, women were outright denied access to education, property ownership, and even decent trousers. People of color were enslaved, colonized, and systematically disadvantaged. It's hard to argue that the wealth gap is just a natural meritocracy when you factor in centuries of deliberate oppression. And let's not forget those self-made billionaires often forget about the invisible hands that helped them climb the ladder. The underpaid workers, the publicly funded infrastructure, the social safety nets that kept their employees from, starving to death. So while the "it's just natural" argument might sound convincing at first glance, it tends to crumble a bit when you hold it up to the light of history.